Hi everyone, thanks for joining us. We're here today to talk about 360 video. 360 video has been getting an awful lot of headlines, for the last, 6 months, year. And Jim, you're here to help explain A, why it's such a hot story, if you like, and B, why, we're also coming to you via 360, which is no accident. But talk a little bit about why it's such a hot commodity right now. Everyone's talking about 360 video.
Yeah, 360 is really interesting in a lot of ways, and so there's a really it's a fisheye view, as you can see here, and a way to have a much more expansive view of what's going on. So if you and I start walking around the table here, we're still continuing our conversation. Now all of a sudden the viewer goes from a passive participant to at least a little bit more active.
I felt, by the way, I did feel strange when you walked over. I felt a little bit like the George W. Bush Al Gore debate, where you kind of got too close.
I got too close and then I went away. And so now the user has the option and the obligation in some ways that they can't see you and me at the same time. They have to decide what they're going to do. So if I walk around to the same side, let's try to make it a little easier on the user as we're talking about this. They're probably, the odds say there's a 75% likelihood they're viewing it on a mobile device. They're viewing us talking on a mobile device right now. So if you, the viewer, can start panning and tilting or using your finger, depends on your device and all, I mean, you start to get a sense, wow, they can explore and they can start looking at all kinds of things. And we happen to be in a conference room, which is maybe not that visually interesting. So, but imagine if we're out in an environment where we're at a stadium or a Grand Central terminals across the street here, we could do things.
There are things to look at.
There are definitely things to look at. I mean, so there's a lot going on there, and you can be really quite immersive. Like if you're going to read the book Soviet Agriculture, there'd be a lot.
Soviet Agriculture was on my reading list.
So I've got a copy, and I'm not going to give it away, though. I don't want to tell you how it ends. So, I mean, it's really an interesting experience, and we see our media clients doing a lot of this, and it's kind of experimental and a little bit wonky, sort of like this video is right now. I mean, we're just trying to get it out there and let people understand what they can do. But it's not hard to imagine a scenario where you start integrating advertising in this as well.
That was my question.
Marketers
and advertisers are obviously looking at this. It's not just a gimmick for looking around. Like, I mean, I watched a lot of 360 video during the debates and during town halls. They like to show you what people are doing. And people always say, there's a reason people always say, like, what's it like to be a fly on the wall? Well, with this, you can be a fly on the wall. And now I think it's not just like looking at cool environments and also like really tragic things like refugee camps, but it's for advertisers and marketers are paying a lot of attention to this. And tell us why.
Well, so first off, advertisers and marketers love video in general, as you well know, coming from a TV background. Sight, sound, and motion is a critical part of telling your story. And so when you have the ability to have music and audio and impressive visuals, you can tell a lot richer story than you can if you just have a static two-dimensional way of representing that. And so now we're, sort of the full 3 dimensions that you get with video anyway, and the linear, time dimension of video as well. You've sort of added a way that you can get some user participation. Again, that panning and zooming, and now the user has a little bit more control than they ever had in terms of, if they're tired of looking at me, they can look at you. If they're tired of looking at you, they can look at the Soviet Agriculture book. I mean, there's a lot of things you can do.
I was going to say, hopefully we're more interesting because you can pan off us and see what else is happening around here.
Exactly, and so it's not, and there's sort of a continuum. I mean, people talk a lot about virtual reality, right? And you imagine the goggles and the immersive experience. This is clearly not that. You're still a fly on the wall. The user doesn't get to move us around or dictate how we move. It's still a passive experience in the sense that you don't get to control what's happening.
Right.
But it's a much more active experience in that you can actually navigate. And if somebody wants to look at the picture over in the corner of the room, or some things on the shelves or whatever they want to look at, I mean, they're welcome to pan and do that while we have our conversation. So it's a little bit like they can maybe still listen to us or completely tune us out and look at whatever they want to see that's captured on this shot. It's very, very interesting. And so then going back to your question about the advertising, so it's not hard to imagine you could have sponsored by logos, advertiser, or even something more immersive than just a logo, right? I mean, you could actually have some more live action things like that really incorporate an advertiser's brand in a way that's harder to do in a normal sort of linear video.
And as you said, movement is key, right? Movement keeps people interested.
But it's interesting. Movement does keep people interested and engaged, but I mean, there's an annoyance factor potentially too, because I just walked out of the default frame here, so we had to define what the default frame in view is, and if you happen to be watching this, you now have the obligation, at least if you want to keep looking at me to be engaged, and now you don't know where to look, and so we've made it hard on you. Whereas if we stand next to each other, okay, that makes it a little bit easier on the user. So there's some production things that are very unique to 360 as well that the creators and the advertisers who go along with it are going to have to work out as well. What's the right mix? So you don't normally win by annoying your users.
Right.
You want to make it a useful and entertaining experience for them and get them the information or the entertainment or whatever you're trying to convey. So what the right answer is there, I think, is very much an open question.
You raise a good point, because I remember there was a kind of a movement in TV land to do everything on handheld cameras, which was like to make it look like it's all very much behind the scenes, as if you're doing it from home on your iPhone. And then there was also the backlash of, I feel sick because you're too much moving.
It's too jerky,
and you feel like you're on a roller coaster.
Right. And I'm not a video production professional, so I don't presume to know how this is going to play out in the long run. But it gives you the ability. I mean, and like most tools, it can be probably overused and misused. So it'll find its normal level, and we'll see. But again, our media clients are experimenting with 360. Like you said, the crowd shots, the town halls.
Right.
Those tend to be the most common things. You can get some really visually interesting things going on. And so we'll see how much, certainly when you look at Facebook, Twitter, the social networks, they're very much pushing video in all its forms, whether that be live or 360.
Right.
And Facebook in particular has done some really nice things integrating so that you can upload a 360 video and somebody literally on their phone can pan and zoom around and experience that video.
It'd be good to hear from our clients about what they like about 360 and how they're using it. So I implore all of you to watch this, especially clients and non-clients, just to tell us how they're using it, and also what they think the future holds for 360.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, brilliant. Well, thanks everyone. Thanks for joining us.